On our last episode, we focused on an issue that's going on in every school district across the country. Students refusing to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance. Meaning, when they say stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, student refuses to get up. And the statements they say are like, I pledge to God and family. The flag is racist. But now there are more updates about this, and we're going to do one of the updates for you in just a minute. But let's update you on. Let's give you some updates on COVID real quick, and then we'll go to the thing. So, no new updates since 22nd. Everything's nothing yet. Since 21st, there's nothing. Nothing new. So that's good. But like I said before, hand wash, social distance, sanitization, quarantine, everything. Like we talked about for 2 years. So like I said, for 2 years, we need to make sure we are being safe. As for vaccinations, I would recommend you take the Pfizer vaccine. If you're boosted, that's perfect. Remember, like I talked about, if do the jump from side to side thing. You go, if you jump like one of my outdoor episodes at the softball game. Like green grass would be, you're on the sidewalk, that's mandatory. You're on the green, that means you're vaccinated. Blah 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 blah. So, yeah. There was a lawsuit that happened during this. So let's talk about this, and then
across it.
Let's look into what happened. And then I'll give you my opinion about these issues. So take a look.
A high school student who was suspended for refusing to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance is now suing the school district and the principal who decided to suspend her. Her name is India Landry, and she is a student at Winfern High School. And apparently she was sent to the principal's office after she was caught texting in class. And then while she was at the principal's office, the Pledge of Allegiance was done through the intercom, and she remained seated. At that point, the principal apparently saw her and wasn't too pleased with it. Let me tell you what the exchange allegedly was. When the principal, Martha Strother, asked Landry to stand, the 17-year-old declined. According to the complaint, Strother told Landry, "Well, you're kicked out of here." And then her secretary allegedly told the student, "This is not the NFL." Now, this is a public school that receives taxpayer funding, which means that administrators or educators who violate free speech are basically violating the Constitution. Now,
what that means is you have the right to sue them if they're violating the Constitution, but Supreme Court cases can decide. That's what it basically means. Let's continue.
Cases on a school campus, there are more limitations to speech, especially when it comes to something that could be distracting to an educational environment, or if it's speech that could potentially harm anyone on campus. But in this case, it was protected speech. She is not to be forced to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem or anything like that. She was suspended for several days, and now she is filing a federal civil rights lawsuit against the school district, and I think she has a pretty good case there.
So I want you to understand that the texting had nothing to do with this story. The only reason it's brought up is because that's what got her sent to the principal's office, and that's fine. You're not allowed to text in class. So that's not the issue. That's not why she was kicked out. She was kicked out because she wouldn't stand for the pledge, and that has been her consistent principle, as they pointed out, over 200 times. And that's what's great about this country is two things. One is You have the freedom of speech and can express your political opinions in any way you like within these confines. And she's perfectly within her rights to do that. And so that's what the Pledge of Allegiance is about. That's what the country's about, is celebrating that idea. So the people who are doing this, they're so wrong-headed, and they're actually insulting the idea of America way more than the people who are practicing the freedom of speech and protesting their government and their government's actions. Protesting your government's actions is the most American thing you could do. And then the second part of it is, think about, like, she's saying, hey, I want to, in essence, fix the system, fix the injustice, and create a more perfect union, which is exactly what the Constitution wants you to do. The Constitution doesn't say sit on your ass and don't do anything, don't ask for redress of grievances, don't protest, don't be the press, don't try to fix the government. It says fix this government. In the Constitution, it gives you two different ways to do amendments and to protest the government that the Constitution has formed.
How the Constitution is formed. So coming up next, we're going to hear more from the Young Turks. And then later on, there is more bullying going on in our schools. What can be done to stop this? As I said in the Stop Bullying, Speak Up, this is my main goal throughout the show. End the silence on college hazing, and to stop bullying and speak up, my two Facebook groups. So we'll have all that for you when we return, so don't go away. Tonight we're continuing on part 2 of students refusing to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We had several cases in our last episode where students were suspended, sometimes teachers were suspended. Now, back in 2017, the student was suspended for not standing for the pledge. She's now suing the school district. Let's hear more from what the Young Turks have to say.
It is a document built by rebels. They literally rebelled against the king. They did a revolution. They won their freedom, and it's built on freedom. So the people who are saying, no, you should not exercise that freedom, misunderstood the whole point of the country. They're the ones who have no respect for that flag and what it stands for.
So the type of mentality that the principal had in this story is not, it's not unique to conservatives. I want to be clear about something. This type of weird jingoistic bias runs deep in the country. And I didn't really realize how deep it runs until fairly recently, to be honest with you, when an audience member was pretty upset during a recent show when I made the argument that the United States is not the best country. Now, I don't say that because I have disdain for the US. I love this country. I have extremely high standards for this country. And I think that it is incredibly wrong-headed to pretend as though everything is perfect and that we should be complacent and that we shouldn't expect better from our country, right? So for instance, obviously we have a long way to go when it comes to our healthcare system. We have a long way to go when it comes to a number of things. There have been a number of international studies that, rank countries based on quality of life, the economic situation, healthcare, education. You think we're number one on those lists? We're not number one on those lists. Okay, and so, yeah, we need to improve. And if you want to think about it on a micro scale, think about an employee that you work with, a colleague that you work with, someone who might get constructive criticism from management. I mean, if that person said, no, I'm perfect, I'm not going to take any criticism, I'm not going to consider any of these improvements, I mean, well, how would you think of that person? They're not going to improve because they're completely oblivious or they refuse to accept the fact that there are improvements that need to be made. And that's not cool.
Think about your husband.
Right.
What kind of a person doesn't ever change? A person that can't adjust or adapt, etc. Look, one last thing about this. I remember, and you got to remember, I was a knucklehead. I used to be conservative, and it drove me crazy when people wouldn't stand for the pledge, and I thought it was wrong, and they should have been kicked out. So I was wrong, and I was willing to change. And I used to be upset at Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, who used to be Chris Jackson, and he wouldn't stand for the pledge because he was Muslim, and he cared about his religion. Okay. Now, of course, in America, we say we care a lot about religion unless you're Muslim. And they're like, your religion. No, stand for the pledge. Now, the reason I tell you that whole long story is because it's not just Americans. So he had issues with the NBA. He went to go play in Turkey. And then he didn't stand for the Turkish national anthem either because he felt it was against his religion. And Turkey's 99% Muslim. They're like, what is with this guy who won't stand for the national anthem? And they were even more pissed at him than the Americans were. So he thought he was going to get a better reception because the country's Muslim, and he did not. So I tell you that because I get it, man. It's in our bones. Like, we want to stand up for our flag. We want to stand up for our country. And that's something, because we're standing up for our tribe. What I'm asking you to do, what America is asking you to do, what the Constitution is asking you to do, is to get beyond that and realize that standing up for your country is to help it get better, help us build independent.
So to recap the Supreme Court ruling, they ruled that you don't have the right, you don't have to sit during the pledge. This was back in the 1940s. Back in the 1940s, you could probably see the saluting was a little bit creepy. But if you did that, though, you could. But back then, if you didn't salute the flag or stand, you could be suspended. It's not so much a freedom of speech, but the right not to stand. But back then, the principal was like, yeah, we're going to follow that rule, but we're going to add a condition on there saying you got to have a special note saying this and that. So, yeah, that's a great way to end up on. There is now more bullying in our schools happening, and one of my main goals throughout this show is to stop bullying and speak up. That's one of the two main groups of that throughout this show. As part of this, we're looking into stories, asking experts to weigh in from news footage, and looking at how they're improving safety. Because let me tell you something. I take this bullying and cyberbullying business very, very seriously. Dr. Phil takes it very seriously. And not everyone gives two cahoots about what's going on. What I would recommend you do pick up a copy of Bullied. Share it with your kids. Let them know, hey, play this game so you can experience a lot more of bullying. This isn't real. This is something that happens. And you may be confused, like, oh, are you the bully or you're trying to stand up to bullying? That's probably the whole key here. So, yeah. Bully Scholarship Edition or Bullied. PS2, Xbox 360, Xbox One. Take your pick. We have to take this very seriously. As parents, we need to make sure we know what we're doing to keep our kids safe. Okay, coming up next, we're going to tell you some bullying stories from parents who say a teacher bullied a student to avoid beating during an alleged bullying attack, and from parents who are worried students saying amid uptick in fights, a brutal beating, a Texas mother mission to emulate cyberbullying, and a doctor and an expert who gives advice to parents about returning to school and how to confront bullying. All of that when we come back. Don't go away. Updating you guys on what's been happening in Uvalde. Yesterday was the 4-month anniversary of Uvalde. 4 months. An update from Fox News. Beto O'Rourke says he doesn't regret confronting Abbott and other Texas school officials in Uvalde after shooting. Beto O'Rourke berated Governor Abbott and other Republican officials as they briefed the Uvalde community in the wake of the deadly shooting at Robb Elementary. From Fox News, it says Beto O'Rourke said Saturday he does not regret confronting Texas Governor Greg Abbott and other officials in Uvalde 4 months after a gunman shot and killed 19 children and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary. The Democratic candidate in the Texas governor race interrupted a press conference one day after the shooting, telling Abbott and others who were being briefed by the community that they were doing nothing to stop future massacres. On Saturday, O'Rourke once again criticized Abbott for attending a campaign fundraiser about 300 miles from Uvalde just hours after the shooting. Yeah, he was interrupted. You don't interrupt someone. I mean, we're still trying to make sure it doesn't happen again. We have laws. And what are you doing? Jumping up there and interrupting him, saying, this and this and that, this and that. You're not doing a very good job. This and that, this and that, this and that. I don't like you. I never voted for you. I want to run. If I was down there, I do this. I do this. I do that. It's like, I'm sick of all this when I hear someone arguing. It's just wasting time. It's wasting time here, I tell you what. Now, what about Oxford? Yeah, y'all knew this was coming. There are more details in this, like we talked about in our last episode. Now the Detroit Free Press has a report from yesterday, from a few days ago, about a week before students were shot to death in Oxford High School on a hallway. The suspect told a classmate, if I ever tell you not to come to school, sometimes don't. On Thursday, he said, this is what the evidence has. In Kev Reaver, the superintendent of schools, wrote in a statement Thursday evening that the district would not respond to specific claims made by the attorneys of all the ongoing lawsuits. But he wrote that the district is cooperating with the ongoing investigation. He says, I remain confident that the multiple investigations, lawsuits, and the school board's third-party review will bring all the facts to light and create the full transparency and accounting of the events our community wants and deserves, he wrote. We remain focused on our mission of educating and supporting our kids. Ben Johnson says they all should resign. And do I agree with him? Do I agree with him? Here's the answer. After what had happened, the superintendent resigning, all this, yeah, I agree. They should resign. Think about it. Remember years ago, there was a superintendent that had a relationship with the attorney from the school district. That he got a raise, higher paid superintendent. The parents were angry, like, grrr. He should have been fired. The board decided to place him on administrative leave. He decided to resign. That's good. And a lot of times, people are angry, but then finally get some remorse. And like the parents said, every dollar, that $100,000, doesn't go to children. Highest paid superintendent, what's that going to do for the kids? And the question has always been, where does the money go? It's not helping out the kids. Think of it this way. Here in Flower Bluff, I'm not going to go into detail, we now have an updated stadium. Okay? That's going to help the athletics. What's it going to do for the kids? I don't know. The upstairs varsity gym, what's that going to improve? Safety? It's going to improve safety. Is it going to help? I think so. What about the natatorium? Should have used the old one of the... Man, here's what I think. This is what I think here. When that natatorium was built, nobody could swim except the kids and the athletics. The kids who want to learn to swim and the swimmers. Okay, they can use that. Why can't we use the Winnaski pool to just do Winnaski natatorium? Use Winnaski to just do the swimming, and then they clean it. The janitors would clean it. That would help. Then we can swim in there whenever we want to. Everybody from the community. That's my idea. But if I brought the superintendent, she'd be like, nope. We do that, then we gotta do it for the natatorium, and it'd be an issue. That's what I think should happen. Don't go away. When we return, there are more bullying stories happening, and we're gonna bring you some of these stories, like brutal teen caught on camera being beaten up, a Texas mother on a mission to limit cyberbullying, and another beating, and plus parents who say that a teacher was bullied. Stay with us. You know, every time I do bullying stories, I think of the victims who are being bullied. And on a future episode, I'm going to play you a 2020 clip. Actually, we'll do that on Monday. Can you make Monday? I'm going to play you a clip from... I'm going to play you a 2020 story about two girls who are being bullied and harassed. But you may be shocked to hear what the school district has to say about this. Steve Averson with Dangerous Hallways. That's on Monday. Now, let's get to the 6 clips. First, in Tallahassee, parents say a teacher bullied a student. Let's take a look from 5 News.
Unknown child. It's incredibly disappointing.
Well, a father and mother are claiming their 11-year-old son was bullied by his own teacher, saying the teacher encouraged students to call their son a derogatory term.
Tonight, they spoke with 5 News reporter Michael Wilson about this. He joins us in Tallahassee, Oklahoma, with what parents and the school are saying.
Well, the parents tell me they are upset and taking the fight to the state. In a town with around 1,000 people, everyone knows each other.
Been somebody of the community my entire life.
And parents Amber and Jonathan Steps say what happened to their 11-year-old son shocked them.
I'm supposed to trust this professional to teach my son, positive things, not hatred.
They say their son's 5th grade teacher encouraged students to use an anti-gay slur when their son, who has special learning needs, was horseplaying with another boy.
To shame the boys into not wanting to do that.
Jonathan says his son didn't even know what the word meant.
Because we don't use those words. And I explained to him and he started crying. And asked me, Daddy, why would you call me that? And I didn't have an answer for my son.
For those answers, they say they went to the elementary school principal, the superintendent, and even the teacher himself.
And 2 of the boys were wrestling with each other, and I said, and one of them started yelling, he's touching me, and I said, yeah, when he does that, you need to say alert.
Amber says that's a recording of the phone conversation she had with the teacher. 5 News confirmed with the district they did launch an investigation. The Steps say their son was sent home during the investigation.
The teacher has options to be sent home, but our child does not have an option as he does not get his special ed services.
Tuesday, Tallahassee schools released a statement to 5 News saying they have taken appropriate action. The statement reads in part, "This teacher does remain employed in our school district. We cannot comment further as this involves confidential personnel and confidential student information."
And our son was to return to the classroom.
His classroom.
His classroom or an all-girl classroom.
So with those 2 options, what are your next steps?
Completely inappropriate to expect a child that's been bullied by the teacher to return to that classroom, and completely inappropriate to put him in the middle of an all-girl classroom. I feel like the school has completely failed all the children that has been affected by this.
And the Steps say they reached out to the Oklahoma Department of Education and are waiting on it to complete its investigation, and then they'll decide what to do with their son. For now, in Tallahassee, Oklahoma, covering news where you live, Michael Wilson, 5 News.
All right, Micah, thanks. Let's talk about this hot forecast.
What I would do is, if those don't work, there's a plan B you can do. File a lawsuit. You'd have a great case. That audio recording right there could be useful to the jury or to the judge. And they could, and you probably could win. They settle, go for it. That's my opinion. Now, now in Los Angeles, where a boy was beaten during alleged bullying. This is very disturbing to watch. Let's take a look.
A mother says school officials ignored her concern after her son was bullied and called racial slurs, and later her son was bullied again.
The incident was caught on video and he suffered broken bones. Now she and her son, who is a special education student, are speaking out. As Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda explains, the family is suing LAUSD.
That's good. Pause right here. That is good. That's a good step. Suing the school district for failing the bullying, that's very good. That's a good move right there. If your schools failed you, the superintendent failed you, the Department of Education failed you, there you go. There's your plan C or D or E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, Z. There you go.
The attack on the playground was recorded on a cell phone. The student on the ground getting punched says it all started after the other student pushed him and yelled racial slurs.
He just started calling me the N-word and started saying it multiple times and stuff. Shocked because I'm not used to people calling me that.
The victim, who will only identify as SB, struggles with learning disabilities and is a special education student. The incident occurred last year in John Adams Middle School in South Los Angeles. He has since moved to a different school. The mother says she didn't get help from the principal.
I said, did he tell you that he called my son the N-word a few times? I said, because nobody is not going to voice that, but y'all going to say that he did something wrong. And then he was like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk to you no more.
The attack was so severe, SB suffered broken bones in his hand. The mother says there had been another bullying incident a month earlier, and she was assured by the school there would be an anti-bullying safety plan. After this attack, she says she didn't get answers.
I just kept calling to see if I could get any type of help, but it did kind of make me feel like they don't care.
She contacted an attorney who says the school district did not look into this appropriately.
We expect there to not be any racial abuse, racial bullying at school at LAUSD. Unfortunately, this case is an illustration that perhaps that's not the case, that children aren't always safe.
SB's mother says her son was vulnerable to being bullied and at risk of being injured at school. SB says while he was in the playground, there was no adult supervision.
Going to school shouldn't be some sort of version of the Hunger Games. It shouldn't be some sort of obstacle course. These are our children.
We contacted the LAUSD. It wouldn't comment about this specific case. In a statement, it said in part, the entire John Adams Middle School community stands firmly against school harassment, discrimination, indifference, bullying, and we work proactively every day to ensure the overall safety and well-being of all students and staff. The school implements restorative justice practices to help pupils and individuals engage one another with integrity and respect.
We need to give them a message that no, there's zero tolerance for any of this.
Right now, there is a claim against the LAUSD, and the district has 6 months to respond. After that, attorneys say there could be a lawsuit.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown.
Wow. It's a good step happening. Now, parents are worried about students' safety after amid upticks in fights. Fighting can mean bullying. So what's happening? Watch.
And now to a big concern for a suburban school. Parents say the bullying and fights are out of control.
And they say it's leaving their kids in near constant danger. Chris, parents and even township leaders went to the district in Upper Chichester tonight.
Yes, guys, this was a series of recorded fights that were held on school buses, inside of hallways, even inside of classrooms here inside the Chichester School District. It has parents wondering about their kids' own safety, let alone their education. Just days into a new school year, chaos on the school bus. A recorded beatdown of a 9th grader at Chichester High School making the rounds on social media. Bullying, a main topic at tonight's school board meeting.
I have so many parents tell me that their kids are afraid to go to school. They're afraid their necks to be picked on. This is not right. The bullying's got to stop.
The fights are in the stairwells, the classrooms. There's even Instagram accounts that keep popping up featuring student fights at Chichester.
These kids will fight adults, they don't care.
Jennifer Frazier says 2 of her daughters are currently being bullied by classmates and are afraid to go to school. How is the school handling it? Well, every day her daughter needs to request a flash pass to raise in the classroom when she's getting bullied. Her mom says that may even lead to more problems. Her daughter is just sad.
It makes me feel like I'm not safe.
Frazier says every week her daughters are showing her new videos just like this. She says students and teachers are afraid.
My worst fear is losing a child because no one is stepping up to take accountability.
They have a policy they react to it.
The school district says it can't comment on specific student matters, but they are aware of the videos and had a meeting with school resource officers to discuss the recent incidents.
If someone is concerned about going to school, they should notify the police. They should notify the administrators. If it's a true threat to their personal safety, they need to notify someone.
I would love to see the Chichester School District actually come together with the community and come up with some solutions, permanent solutions for our kids in our school district.
Now, school district administrators declined to go on camera tonight to talk about the school district bullying policy, only giving me a printed copy of that policy, a policy that does not include, Sheba, those flash passes.
Wow. We talked about bystanders. Where are the bystanders here? Number 4.
Video you will see only on Local 10 of a brutal beatdown on school grounds.
We're hearing from a student who says he was attacked for what he said, but it was all a misunderstanding. Local 10's Christian De La Rosa live now in Pembroke Pines with our exclusive.
Let's just get to the story.
She's getting the police involved and wants to press charges. Video of a school fight now being investigated by the Pembroke Pines Police Department. Eda Castillo can barely watch. The boy being pummeled at school is her 13-year-old son.
Ninguna madre está preparada para algo así.
The school beatdown happened last week at West Broward High.
Class and homework.
Luis Manuel Robles Castillo says he and a friend were talking on their way to the school bus. It's when he says a 17-year-old approached him.
Angry, I don't know why.
And you were speaking in Spanish?
Yeah, and I say, no bro, relax, and they start pushing me on the floor.
So he thought you were talking about him in Spanish.
Yeah.
And that's when he starts punching.
Yeah.
Luis was left with multiple bumps and bruises to his head, but fortunately no serious injuries. The teen's mother says she filed charges and is asking school administrators to take disciplinary measures on the case.
El día de mañana ese muchacho puede llegar armado.
She fears next time it could be worse. And we're reaching out to school district officials to find out which type of disciplinary actions, if any, are being taken. We expect to hear back from them sometime tomorrow, and we'll bring you that update as soon as we get it. Live in Pembroke Pines, I'm Christian De La Rosa, Local 10.
Yeah, we have time for two. We have time for 2 more. We have time for 1 more. A Texas mother is trying to end cyberbullying. But before we get to that report, here's the thing that you need to understand. I take this bullying business very, very seriously. Very seriously. Very seriously. You guys don't care? We're one. We are all created equally. We aren't different. You don't have to pick on people or tease on people, throw food at them. Here's the story.
Fox in Focus, Protecting Our Children, our Denise Middleton talks about the link between cyberbullying and also suicide and how one mother has made it her mission to help save lives.
Cyberbullying can happen anytime, anywhere. Research suggests it may even increase thoughts of suicide and attempts. It's why Maureen Molek has worked to eliminate cyber and other bullying through education, legislation, and legal action following the death of her son. David Molak was a typical teen who loved sports.
He was a huge NFL football fan and loved memorizing all of the stats, and he would just keep his friends occupied with his silly antics and just always wanted to make people laugh.
But in the days and months leading to his death, David was anything but. Maureen Molak says her son had become the target of cyberbullying at Alamo Heights High School in San Antonio.
There was an Instagram post one night that was just devastating to him. And he came running down into our bedrooms crying and screaming that he would never go back to school.
Shortly after, David changed schools, but students from his previous school were still tormenting him. He died by suicide in 2017 over the Christmas break, the night before he was supposed to return to school. David was just 16 years old.
I call it a life sentence. Living the rest of my life on this earth without my youngest son, David, is a life sentence.
But Maureen has made it her mission to help save other children from that very same fate.
The goal of Senate Bill 179 is to combat and prevent cyberbullying.
To honor his legacy, David's family and friends worked with lawmakers to create David's Law in 2017, giving schools the authority to intervene and investigate incidents of cyberbullying that occur off campus. Since then, they've worked to strengthen David's Law.
There is also a provision in David's Law that allows superintendents and schools to send a student to disciplinary alternative education program or to expel them for very serious bullying behavior.
Then in 2021, David's Law was expanded, requiring all schools to have an anti-bullying committee to focus on wellness and relationship building, along with preventative programs. There's even a civil remedy for parents to get an injunction against a cyberbully as a last resort. Through David's Legacy Foundation, parents can receive pro bono legal services to file and hopefully get a cease and desist order.
We're not about creating a school to prison pipeline. We're about solving problems. We want to, try to nip these issues in the bud early on before they become physical altercations, before someone chooses to hurt somebody, before someone chooses to hurt themselves.
Representative Jose Menendez, an author of the newly revised law, he also helped work on Texas Senate Bill 279, which now requires public school student identification cards issued to students in grade 6 or higher to include contact information for suicide prevention crisis services.
Suicide in Bexar County, I can't talk for the whole state, but in this county amongst teens has tripled in the last, the suicide rate in about the last 10, 15 years has exponentially grown. By at least 300%.
It's why Maureen continues to spread a message of hope, encouraging parents to never give up.
We feel like a failure as a parent, but that's not what we should do. And I hope that parents can learn from me and learn that we have to reach out for more supports, especially as a parent when you're navigating through it with your child.
David's Legacy Foundation helps educate communities about the harmful effects of cyber abuse, offering free virtual presentations and much more. If you'd like to learn more about David's Law and Foundation, we have a link to their website at fox26houston.com. Reporting in the studio, Denise Middleton, Fox 26 News.
So final thought, stop it. Quit being a bystander. Break up the damn fight, and talk to an adult, talk to someone. Do not stand with your fucking phone going on, yeah, Timmy, Bama, world star. Then you expect to get fame on YouTube or Instagram. Take a stand indefinitely. On Monday, doctor on call, a doctor comes in to explain bullying and difficulties returning to school. Then that 2020 report I promised you. That's on Monday. That's all for this edition of Give Me Break Saturday going into Sunday. We will see you again either Monday morning, Monday afternoon, or Monday night for Give Me a Break Monday. For all of us here at YouTube and Give Me a Break, stop bullying, speak up. Good night everyone.